Hi guys, hope you're fine and doing well. So today we will be discussing this problem from the LeetCode, which is palindromic substrings. So this is the 21st problem of the dynamic programming series. So if you haven't watched the previous videos, you can consider watching them since it will be really helpful for you to understand the concepts in the upcoming videos. And in case you are new to this channel, you can consider subscribing it and pressing the bell icon so that you don't miss any of the upcoming updates. So let's get started with this problem. So the question tries to say that we are given a string S and we have to return the number of palindromic substrings in it. And what is a palindrome? It is basically a string which when we read from backward, it is same as when we read it from the forward. And here the definition of substring is given to us. So now let's see how can we find the total number of palindromic substrings in this kind of example. Firstly, if we consider the palindromic substrings whose length is equal to 1, then how many are possible? These are basically all the characters if we see, because they are itself a palindrome. So the total count will be 5 when the length is 1. And in case the length is 2, then the total number of palindromic substrings will be, this is the only possible palindromic substring. Rest, if we try to read like from AB, then if we try to read AB from the front, it is A and B, and if we try to read it from backward, it becomes B and A. So these both strings are not equal. So hence only this A and A is possible. So for the length 2, only one substring is possible. So now if we consider length 3, so for length 3, the only substring that is possible is A, B, and A. So this is only the palindromic substring that is possible for the length 3. And if we consider the length 4, and for the length 4, this will only be the possible, because if we try to read this BAAB from the back and from the front, they are both same. So it is only possible. So for the length 4, it is this string, and for the length 5, there is no other string possible. So if we clearly see that, we are just able to find out that there are only 8 palindromic substrings that are possible if this is the string substring that we are given. So let's see what is the time complexity of this algorithm. So firstly, what we shall be doing is we just need two pointers, I and j. So let's consider that I is here and j is at this index. So what we will be doing is we have to iterate over all indices. Basically, I and j are the ranges in which we are going to find out whether this substring is a palindrome or not. So for that, we need two for loops. So one for loop for I, which will go from 0 to n and I plus plus, and the other for loop is, so this is basically the nested for loop. So the other for loop will be for j. So for j will start from I and j will go till n, and it will keep on incrementing. So after we have applied these two for loops, so we will be trying to find out if the particular substring which is in the range I to j, is it a palindrome or not. So now to find a palindrome, we will simply apply a for loop of size n. Like if we have to find out for the string a, b, a, whether this is a palindrome or not, we will simply check if this index is equal to this index, and then we will iterate over this index. Is it equal to this index? So basically, we will be checking for these extremities. So in the worst case, the total complexity will be O of n here also. So for this also, we will apply a for loop. Let's say this variable is equal to k, and k will go till n by 2 less than equal to n by 2 and k plus plus. So here we will be checking that if basically if character at k is equal to character at n minus 1 minus k. So basically first and last characters we will be checking. So in case they are all equal, so this will be a palindrome. So this will come in an if statement. And in case this particular string is a palindrome, we will be having a count variable which will store the total number of palindromic substrings. So we will here be incrementing it to count plus plus in that case. So if we clearly analyze, the time complexity for this algorithm will be of O of n cube form, because here is one for loop, second for loop, and third for loop to check whether this particular string is a palindrome or not. So the constraints that we are given in this problem is that the length of the string will be of the form 10 to the power 3. So in case this string that we are given is of the form 10 to the power 3 and n cube is our time complexity, so the total operations become 10 to the power 9. Since we know that we are not able to do 10 to the power 9 operations in 1 second, so obviously this will give us time limit exceeded. So now let's see how we can optimize this approach. So before moving on to the optimized approach, the slight correction in this algorithm is that this k will not go from 0 to n by 2, but the basic idea is that if we are finding for a particular substring in the range I to j, then this k will be I to j, then this k will be varying from, it will start from I and it will go all the way up to j minus I divided by 2. So you can just simply replace this n by j minus I and this 0 b as I. So this is the slight correction that needs to be done in this algorithm. Rest the time complexity will be same and it will be giving us time limit exceeded. So now let's move on to the optimized approach. So now, in order to optimize our approach, one thing that we need to focus upon is that in the algorithm that we have made, which part of this algorithm is actually creating time limit exceeded. So on clearly analyzing it, we conclude that these two for loops cannot be avoided. The reason is because these are actually creating the ranges for the substrings, and we surely need to iterate over all the type of substrings that are possible, and then we need to find out, because without that it won't be possible. So, and if we move on to this for loop and analyze its role, so this for loop's role is actually to find out whether a particular substring in the given range is it a palindrome or not. So if we can reduce this part and answer this query in O of 1, then yes, our algorithm has been reduced to O of n square, and which is almost 10 to the power 6 operations. So these operations can be well done under 1 second. So let me just clear this out. What we will be seeing is that how can we just reduce that O of n time to O of 1. So the basic idea is, for example, we are given a substring as AA, BB, and CC. Let it be D here. So for example, we have to find out in this range whether this string is a palindrome or not. We can answer that yes, string with this length 2 is a palindrome and the string is A and A. But now when we go on checking with string with length 4, what we are what we were previously doing was that we were checking all the characters and hence it was taking O of n time. But what could have been done is that we could have compared the first character and the last character. In case they are same, then a problem that is reduced to, we just need to find out whether this part of the substring is it a palindrome or not. In case this is also a palindrome, then definitely this whole substring is a palindrome. And if we can answer this question in O of 1, it is just O of 1 time complexity query. So let's see how can this be done. So here we have made a 2D grid which is of the type Boolean, and let's understand what does it mean. So a particular cell of this grid, let's say this cell. So what does it mean is its row is 0 and the column is 2. So basically it represents a substring from 0 to 2. So it is actually representing a range from 0 to 2, which is ABA. This is the substring. So now similarly, if we consider like this cell, what does that mean? It is actually a substring from 2 to 3, which is this substring. And in this place, what we will be filling is either true or false. True depicting that the substring in this range, which is like from 2 to 3, is it a palindromic substring? In that case, we will fill true, and in the other case, we will fill false. So let's see how we will go about filling this whole grid. So firstly, what easiest task we can do is if we check from 0 to 0, which is this index, it is obviously a palindromic substring. So we have filled true here. So similarly, from 1 to 1, it is also palindromic substring, which is basically this string. And similarly, all these substrings in the range, like from 4 to 4, it is a palindromic substring. So from all of them, this answer will be true. So now let's see for this cell, how will this answer be formed? So for the range 0 to 1, 0 to 1, the answer will be, we will check firstly that the character at 0th index and the first index, are they equal? They are not equal. So definitely this is not a palindromic substring. So we will fill false here. And if we check for this cell, so for this cell, we will go about this string, which is from 1 to 2, which is BA. We will again check whether these both characters are equal or not. So they are not equal. So we will again fill false here. So this cannot be a palindromic substring. So similarly for 2 to 3, because A and 2 to 3, this is the substring that we are talking about. So in this case, A and A are equal. So yes, it is a palindromic substring. So we will simply fill true here. And for this case, because it is A and B, so for this cell, it will definitely be false because they both are not equal. So now, if we move to this cell, so if we move to this cell, what will be the answer? It will be from 0 to 2. This will be the range 0 to 2. So now if we check that A and A are both equal. So since both of them are equal, we will check another thing that, okay, these both are equal. Now, because these both characters are equal, now our range is reduced to this part, which is actually I plus 1 to j minus 1. So I is this and j is this. So if we clearly analyze this and just go about here, so I plus 1 and j minus 1. So we will just check if this B string, substring, is it a palindromic substring or not, because here it is true. So we have already stored the answer for this part. So we need not calculate it again. We just want to say if it is true or not, because it is true and these both characters are equal. So hence this is also a substring which is from the range 0 to 2. So we will simply fill this as true. So again, what we will do here is we will check for B and A. They are obviously not equal, so we'll simply fill false here. Now we will check for A and this B. Again, they are not equal, so this is false. So now if we go to A and A, because now they both are equal, what we will be checking is, so let me just draw this range which is from 0 to 3. So in this case, this I and this J, so they both are equal. But now we need to check for this substring, whether this substring is it a palindromic substring or not. In case this is a palindromic substring, then our answer will be true, or else our answer will be false. So where is this answer available to us? So I plus 1 and j minus 1. So we will go to I plus 1 and j minus 1. So the here answer is false. So definitely this is not a palindromic substring which is in the range 0 to 3. So here it will be false. Now here if we come to 1 to 4, which is this range. So now what we will again do is we will again check for whether this character and this character are equal. Yes, they are equal. Now our problem is that we need to find out whether this substring is it a palindromic substring or not. So again it is I plus 1 and j minus 1. So I plus 1 and j minus, not here. Yes, we are in this cell. So here we need to check I plus 1 and j minus 1. So here it is true. Hence, this is also a palindromic substring. So this is how we are keeping record of all the previous substrings, whether they are a palindromic or not. So lastly, we will be checking from the range 0 to 4, which is this whole substring. Since the first and the last characters, 0th and the 4th character are not equal, so yes, it is not a palindromic substring. So our answer will be false here. So now what we are required to do is we just need to count the total number of true values in this grid, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So this is our answer 8. So which we saw previously also, that how our answer will be building up to 8. So the another thing that we need to focus upon is that we are iterating on the indices of this 2D array in this form. Firstly, we will iterate all these, and then we will be iterating all of them, and then again this, and again this, and in the last we will come to this. So this is the fashion in which we will be iterating all these indices. And now if we analyze the time complexity of this algorithm, for example, for a particular range, let's say 1 to 4. So if we had to answer this, we will be checking for in case they are equal. So this will take just O of 1 time. And after that, we need to find out whether this substring is it a palindromic or not. So this query is also taking O of 1 time. How? When we are in range from 1 to 4, which is this index. So this AA value is present at this index, which is true. So if we recheck it from here also, it is 2 comma 3. So these indices are also 2 and 3. So their value is actually true. So that is the reason we are able to answer this query in just O of 1. So the total time complexity is just O of n square, which is required to iterate over all these indices. So now let's see how can we code this problem. So firstly, what we will do is, let me just rename it to str. Yes. Now we will create value n, which is the length of the string gth. Yes. And then we will create a boolean array b, which is of the length n and n. So we will just initialize all these elements as true. All these elements as true, because it is really easy to do them, because for each character itself a palindrome. So for int I is equal to 0, I is less than n, and I plus plus. So b of I is equal to true. So now after we have initialized all these character elements to true, now we will be iterating over all these indices one by one in this way. So firstly, let's create int I is equal to 0, I is less than n minus 1, and I plus plus. And now int j is equal to 0, and j is less than n minus 1 minus I and j plus plus. So if we will put if condition, if str dot char at of j is equal to str dot char at of j plus 1 plus I, in case they are equal, and the other condition is that b of j plus 1 and j plus I is true, is equal to true, or I plus 1 is equal to 1. So these are the two conditions that we will be putting. So one thing that we should keep in mind is, here that we were considering I is this, which is basically which row I is representing which row, and j is representing which column, right? So j was all these columns, but here what we are doing is, actually it is just the form to represent row and column. So here, to represent a row which we were representing as I, here it is j. So here this value is j, which is representing particular row that we are standing on. For example, we are here, so j will be equal to 2 in this case. And similarly, what is the representation of column in our code? So this is the representation of our column, which is j plus 1 plus I. J plus 1 plus I. So it is nothing but just a way to access that index. So this is what this column is being represented, and this value will be 2 again here, because this column is 2. So this is what these two values are representing here. So now what we are required to do is, we just need to keep a count variable, and we just need to count plus plus, and b of j plus 1 plus I is equal to true. So we just need to put it this way, and after that we can return count plus n. So why count plus n? Because the count variable is actually storing all the count for all these values, but not these. So obviously this count will be n. So that is the reason we are adding n here. So now let's see if this is running. So yes, it is running correctly. Let's try to submit this. So yes, it is getting accepted. So one thing that I missed is actually this part, which is b of j plus 1 and j plus I. So actually, if we see, what we were doing was, for checking this range, we were just doing I plus 1 and j minus 1, j minus 1. So if we just substitute these values here, so j will become j plus 1 for that, if we are checking for this range. So let me just write it separately only. So it will become j plus 1. One second. J plus 1, and this will be j plus I plus 1 minus 1, j plus I plus 1, and this minus 1. So which is actually just j plus I. So now this thing will make sense to you. So I hope you understood solution in this video, and if you appreciate my work, you can consider subscribing to this channel and giving thumbs up to this video. So let's meet in the next video. Till then, bye bye.